In history, there have been individuals who were born into a hopeless situation and yet overcame massive odds. One such person who made history is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809 in Kentucky, USA, in a log cabin to Thomas and Nancy Hanks Lincoln. Abraham was raised in poverty with a father who was a grafter, but struggled to achieve the needed economic means for the family. Abraham Lincoln considered his father as being weak and poorly educated, which created a sense of contempt in the young Abraham. His mother, on the other hand, Nancy, was a stronger and more determined character who coached the young Abraham in his ABCs in his early years. Abraham Lincoln's mother's death at 9 years old had a profound effect on the young Abraham. The poverty he lived in, coupled with his mom's death, motivated Abraham to succeed and look beyond his present situation, which appeared hopeless. America in the 1800s was still a growing country, and if in poverty, that was often severe. So being born into low obscurity with a hopeless father, and now a deceased mother who was strong and encouraging, could have broken a child, or set them on a path towards better. The life Abraham endured on the farm was a battle for survival against trees, logs, and animals. If Abraham had grown up without the mixed messages of be strong, be determined to learn, as well as do the opposite, or indifference to the former, the whole situation could have gone a different direction, for which history would not have documented. Abraham Lincoln's trauma continued after the death of his mother, with his struggling father being overwhelmed with his wife's death. Running a farm and looking after his children made him leave them alone. This gave Abraham and his sister Sarah the challenge of surviving on next to nothing for at least 6 months. Some, of course, would have just quit, but an established strength fused in young Abraham would push him through these challenges as it would throughout his life of failing forward. The messages from his strong and encouraging mother without a doubt helped fuse the sense of persistence and dogged determination in Abraham. Ask yourself whether a privileged child thrusted in the situation with hardly any resources and support in such a situation would have thrived or perished in a hurricane of poverty, hopelessness, and now having to fend for himself and his sister. From personal experience, I recall massive struggles with surviving my parents and getting past initial educational underachievement, struggles with speech, but never had to fend for myself, and still had a father who provided basic survival needs. After 6 months, Abraham's father returned with a new wife, Sally Bush, who by accounts greeted more warmly than his father. Sally Bush took Abraham Lincoln on as her own son. Abraham would refer to Sally as his mother. Sally would ensure Abraham would have plenty of different books to read after he had completed his farm and cabin chores. This social experience gave Abraham a new lease of life and the needed motivation to carry on and look to a brighter future. Abraham Lincoln had spent most of his childhood and youth out of formal education due to his difficult childhood in rural 1800s America. However, the poverty hardships, inconsistent parental messaging, surviving his closest relative's death, being abandoned by another parent fueled a dogged determination in young Abraham. As he had to graft, think on his feet, live in the survival moment, he developed a mentality associated with motivated survivalists of what can I do about the situation to make it better? I can't go to school to learn, but I can access learning through books and self-education. It is far better to do the best in the moment, rather than existing there and waiting for someone to hand you better circumstances, which may never happen. The biggest take from studying great men like Abraham Lincoln is not just that he came from nothing to greatness, but what he did with that nothing in life. Instead of reading, adapting, he could have stared at a wall just wishing things would get better, and he mostly did not. Abraham Lincoln's success story is not only about counting your blessings, doing your best in any given situation, but also deciding that you are not and ever finished whilst you are still breathing and conscious. To make the most out of each day. Thank you for watching this first part of Motivational Abraham Lincoln. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment.